Welcome to the Tatum Christian Variety Show, brought to you by Tatum Creative. Your host, Nicholas Tatum, is ready to have fun with you.
Greetings and God bless. Every episode starts with the trivia. The trivia will be answered at the end of the show to give you time to think it over and see if you can get it right. Without further ado, here is your trivia.
Who am I? I was a left-handed judge who hid a sword on the opposite side. I assassinated a king, so fat the blade disappeared into him. Who am I?
We have so many skeptics around nowadays who use the fact that we weren't around during the Bible days to dispute whether miracles really happened. You know what? I'm going back to the past to see what skeptics had to say at the times that the miracles happened. Let's go into the past together and see. This is your host, Nicholas Tatum. The Israelites have just escaped the clutches of the Egyptians through the use of a series of miracles by God. And I'm here to talk to Egyptian Sandal Thumper. Mr. Thumper, what is your opinion of all the miracles that were performed on behalf of the Israelites?
Miracles? Miracles? There was no miracles. That was just a series of bad luck that can easily be explained as a domino effect. In fact, I think Moses knew what the domino effect would be and used that to convince Pharaoh to let the Israelites go.
Are you saying that everything that happened was because of Moses?
No, I ain't say that. I said that he was aware of the chain of coincidences that would happen, and he used that in order to trick Pharaoh into letting the people go. Let me explain. I'm going to explain to you. This is how it all started. When a Red Sea fungus took over the water and it made the water appear to be like blood, Moses had to see something in the water to know that algae was going to spread and make all the water be ruined.
I see. So it's not Moses' fault, but he was aware of the situation and used it to his advantage. How do you explain the frogs?
That's a good question. That's a good question. And I'm glad you asked. If you don't mind, I'm going to just take a little bit of time to cook right here, okay? So, the first thing was the red algae that messed up the water, right? So, where do amphibians live? You got it. In the water. They all came out the water, trying to escape that new deadly algae water and ended up infesting our homes. Second miracle explained. But they didn't stop there, because without water, they died off. With all the frogs dead, bugs such as gnats and lice, they ain't had no natural enemies, and they multiplied suddenly, causing trouble for all the Egyptians. Third miracle explained. Then, because of all the dead frog bodies, a large number of flies were produced, because the flies, they come from dead bodies. Fourth miracle explained. And the flies, they known for being dirty little disease bringers. And with so many flies, much of the cattle got infected. Fifth miracle explained. Eating the meat from the tainted animals caused us Egyptians to get sick, mess with our stomach, and we grew boils and such, That's your sixth miracle explained. Do you see what I'm talking about? I mean, everything just kind of leads into the next thing. Don't even get me started on the hail and the locusts and the thick darkness and the great tragedy of the death that struck our children.
I can see how you think that there was a pattern. But even if there was a pattern, does the fact that there is a pattern mean that it's not a miracle?
Anything that can be explained, it cannot be a miracle. Okay. I see what you're doing. You getting philosophical. Instead of a miracle being something that violates natural laws, you saying that a miracle is something based on timing of whatever, went down, whatever happened. So it's not about whether something can be explained as much as why did it happen at that moment. Am I correct?
While I do believe that, I am asking if it will be impossible for an all-powerful God to use things that can be explained to cause things to line up in just such a way as to affect the outcome in someone's life or on some situation, such as the weak and enslaved children of Israel forcing the powerful Egyptians to let them go.
I mean, if you're going to define it that way, then yeah, I can see why you would say that's a miracle. But if you stick to the simple, nature-breaking feats, then there is no miracle here.
What about the fact that everyone who died in that last plague was the firstborn of the family or animals?
Wait, hold up. Wait, what? What? It was just the firstborn? No. Hold on. Slow down. Let me see. Let me think. Hold on. Just give me time to think. Let me see. John, Jim, Lucy. Holy Mother of Moses, they were all firstborn. I ain't never been so glad to be an eighth son in my life. I tell you right now. I tell you that, for God. I tell you. I'm sorry, but this new information, and I'm gonna have to take some time to consider that. So I'm gonna go and think this over.
Well, thank you for your time. Well, this has been your host, Nicholas Tatum, with Skeptical Interviews. Now it's time for Holy or Common. This is the part of the show where you have 10 seconds to determine whether the phrase I give you next is in the Bible or if it's just a common saying. Here we go. Fall from grace. Is it in the Bible? Used in sports, politics, and pop culture, it comes from Galatians 5, where Paul admonished that if you are following the law, you are fallen from grace. This phrase is in the Bible.
The views expressed in this program do not necessarily represent the views of CWC Digital Radio Network.
Greetings and God bless, and welcome to the program. I'm your host, Nicholas Tatum, and I'm here to have fun with you. Well, you might learn a little something from my ramblings if you listen. Today I want to talk to you about something that I just kind of consider basic. However, I realize that everything that I consider basic is not necessarily basic to others, and that's the way teaching works. Teachers know a lot because they took time to learn a lot, and some stuff is basic to them because they're so busy learning and teaching and doing it so often that it's just basic. But once they try to teach it to a student, they figure out that it may not be so basic, and they have a hard time getting it across to the students because there are some concepts within there that they now understand after all of their years of studying. So, that being said, I want to talk to you about trusting Jesus. I know, right? On the very premise of it, it sounds basic because just to be a Christian, to be one of the children of God, the first thing you have to do is trust Jesus. But that's trusting Jesus with our soul. And trusting Jesus with our soul and the ability to save us is different from trusting Him with the things that concern us in this physical earthly realm. Yes, Jesus has control over all of this. Do remember that Jesus is not just a prophet. Jesus is God. So for all intents and purposes, this conversation really is trusting in God, trusting in the one who created you. That being said, I want everyone to trust Jesus with their very well-being. Yes, your very well-being. All the things that concern you, whether it's about making money, whether it's about staying healthy, whether it's about anything. When you hear God communicating with you, even if it sounds so unorthodox or so out of place, you need to follow what He's saying. God knows what He's doing much better than you do. And a lot of times we use what we've already learned and what we know to negate what God is telling us and what God is telling us to do. I can't tell you how many situations I've been in where I actually listened to the leading of the Lord, and it ended up working out for my benefit in a way that I never would have been able to predict if it was on me to decide everything that goes on in my life. Things sometimes just go differently than what you could ever assume. I want to talk about Jesus telling Peter to go fishing so that they can pay taxes. Yes, fishing to pay your taxes does make sense if you think about it from the standpoint of fishing, collecting the fish, taking the fish to market, selling the fish, and then paying your taxes with the money you made from selling the fish. But no, that's not the order that Jesus had in mind. Jesus had something completely different in mind. He even told Peter exactly what the plan was. Go get a fish, and the fish is basically going to pay the bill for us. That's right. The fish will have its own money that you can use to pay your taxes and mine. That is just crazy. But Peter went to go fishing, and what he caught was a fish, and the fish was packing bills. Okay, they weren't bills, it was coins back then, but still, you know what I mean. The fish had the money they needed to pay the taxes. That is something you could not have predicted. So with the Holy Spirit leading you now and telling you, hey, I know you want to make more money, so I want you to take all the money you have and give it away to this charity over here. Whoa, what do you mean take all the money I have and give it over to this charity over here? All of a sudden, you give that money to that charity just because you want to be obedient, and somehow you become Instagram famous or Facebook famous or whatever kind of famous, and everyone's flocking over to your page trying to see what you're doing and seeing what they can possibly contribute to you for being one of the nicest individuals in the planet. Does that happen to everybody? No, it doesn't. So this is something that would be out of the ordinary, just God using something out of the ordinary to bless you, which is why you have to trust him. It may not turn out to be the thing that blesses you financially. It may bless you in some other way, but you have to trust him because he knows where he's trying to get you. It may be just something that hooks you up with somebody that is going to help you in the future and get you to where you're going to be. But you don't know. The only thing you do know is God is asking you to do something, and you probably should do it. There's also Matthew 14, where he feeds the 5,000. Think about that situation. 5 loaves of bread or 2 loaves of bread and 5 fish. You fed 5,000 people with that? That's right. He told the disciples, bring me that stuff. Everybody start sitting down. I'm sure some people were confused when they saw him with the amount of fish and the amount of bread that he had, and he's telling everybody to sit down like he's about to serve dinner. That had to be very confusing. But you have to remember, we're talking about Jesus, who is God. If he's telling you something, he knows what he's talking about. Not only did everybody eat, but everybody walked away full, and there were leftovers that were in baskets and barrels. Who knows who they fed with that or what they did with the scraps and the leftovers. The whole point is, he can do everything that you need him to do, but he doesn't have to do it the way that you think it's going to be done. He doesn't have to use some system or method that you know works to get you to where he's trying to get you, or even to where you want to be. So, once again, the whole thing is trust God. Trust Jesus with your very life and all that concerns you. You may not see how it's going to happen. You may not see how it's going to benefit. But if you just do what he says, even in those times where it seems like you can't possibly be benefited by whatever he's asking you to do, don't think about it like that. You're using your human knowledge and all the experience that you have. Does the experience that you have from living somewhere less than 80 or 90 years, okay, there are people out there that are over 100, but even them, does that trump what God has seen from everlasting to everlasting? Can your experience ever trump his? There's no way that in your small amount of time, you've gathered all the knowledge that God has. He's omniscient, for goodness sake. So I'm saying trust God, even over the knowledge that you know to be true. Because the one thing that you truly know to be true is that God is faithful and that he is able. Hey, if you enjoyed any portions of this show, you might find yourself interested in my book series. The Jesus Freak book series is a 4-book series that'll help you get deeper in your faith through story and action. You can find out more about it at www.officialjesusfreak.com. And you can also reach me at info@officialjesusfreak.com. Be sure to use TCVS or Tatum Christian Variety Show as the subject line. Until next time, trust God with the impossible and live your faith boldly. Here's the answer for your trivia today. I'm sorry that I kept you waiting, but let's see how you did.
Who am I? I was a left-handed judge who hid a sword on the opposite side. I assassinated a king so fat the blade disappeared into him. Who am I? The answer is Ehud.
Did you get the answer right? This has been the Tatum Christian Variety Show, brought to you by Tatum Creative. Your host, Nicholas Tatum, wants you to have a blessed week.